In the 21st century, only 44 monarchies remain worldwide. Throughout thousands of years, society has existed, many have risen and fallen, and with it, their ruling families. However, one particular monarchy has stood trials throughout its history of 2.5 millennia, ranging from Mongol invasions to atomic bombs, and still remains sovereign to this day. This is none other than the Imperial House of Japan. Throughout its 2,600-year existence dating back to 660 BC, 126 emperors have ruled over Japan during periods of both great famine and economic prosperity. However, it's believed by many that this great dynasty can be linked to an individual that is believed to be the descendant of the sun goddess Amaterasu herself. This individual is known as Emperor Jimmu, the first emperor of Japan. Born on February 13, 771 BC, Emperor Jimmu, also known as Kamu Yamate Uwari Biko no Makito, is believed by many to be the first emperor of the Japanese people. His supposed 75-year reign over Japan lasted from 660 BC until his death on the 9th of April, 585 BC, at the ripe old age of 125. The main evidence for Jimmu's life originates from Nihon Shoki, also known as the Japanese Chronicles, which was published in the year 721. A book that is vital to the history and culture of the Japanese people, as it describes the story of a Japanese creation myth and the details of Emperor Jimmu himself. According to ancient scriptures, Jimmu's story begins in his possible birthplace in the village of Takachiho, a tranquil and beautiful place, well known for its picturesque Takachiho Gorge, and as the location where the goddess Amaterasu's grandson, Nagini no Mikoto, descended from the heavens. It's believed that here, the grandson Nagini no Mikoto met the goddess of Mount Fuji and all other volcanoes, Konohana Sakuya Hime, also known as Sakuya Hime, on a beach. Nagini became deeply in love with Sakuya Hime and asked her father, Ohoyama, for her hand in marriage. Ohoyama initially proposed his older daughter, Iwa Nagahime, yet he reluctantly agreed for Nagini and Sakuya Hime to marry. It is believed that the couple raised 3 children, of which one was known as Hiko Hohodimi no Mikoto, the individual who married Totoyama Hime, the daughter of the sea god Ryujin. They then had a single son named Uga Fukiezu, which they promptly abandoned. Ugaya Fukiezu, however, eventually grew up, got married, and raised 4 sons. The youngest of these sons grew up to become the venerable Jimmu, one of the most influential monarchs in Japanese history. As Jimmu grew up, his older brothers visited to settle eastward in order to administer Japan, since their settlement on the island of Kyushu was far from the centre of the Japanese island. As Jimmu ventured east, he embarked on a long 8-year journey, visiting locations all around the subtropical islands of Kyushu and the forested and mountainous landscapes of Honshu, until he eventually landed in Nanawa, now modernly known as Osaka, a place renowned for its economic prosperity. However, Jimmu's visit to Nanawa was not all fun and games. Upon entry to the city, a chieftain from Nara, Nagasunihiko, also known as the Long-Legged One, confronted Jimmu and his band of allies. In the battle that would shortly ensue, Jimmu knew the battle was lost, since his forces were facing the sun, and to make matters worse, his brother Itsuse succumbed to a deadly arrow wound to the head. The regular individual would have returned home defeated, yet Jimmu persevered in order to achieve his goal of asserting dominance throughout Japan. He soon realised that the reason he lost was because he was fighting against the sun, as opposed to fighting on the side of the sun who, as we know, was in fact his ancestor, the sun goddess Amaterasu. Therefore, Jimmu travelled across the Kii Peninsula in order to attack the army of Nagasunihiko from the east, and on his journey he buried his brother Itsuse in the town of Yakamama. Apparently, as Jimmu landed in Kumamo in South Wakayama, he saw a gigantic bear and a horde of evil spirits which caused a subsequent collapse of his army. The desperate Jimmu urgently required help, and in the heat of the moment, a man named Takakuraji appeared and handed Jimmu the sword by the name of Futsu no Mitama,
a sword created by the thunder god himself, Takamikazuchi. It is believed that as soon as Jimmu wielded the sword, his army woke up and the evil spirits vanished. Takakuraji warned Jimmu of the evil spirits he would encounter along his journey and advised him to seek the three-legged crow in Kumamo, which goes by the name of Yatagarasu. Soon, Jimmu met Nagasuna Hiko in battle. The chronicles of the Nihon Shoki do not mention much of the battle, but what is believed is that it was an extremely bloody and violent stalemate. This was until the sky became dark and divine golden kite was spotted. Nagasuna Hiko was stunned by its splendour and was then slain due to his dazzled state.
Sometime after the battle, Jimmu ventured to Yamato to confront an individual called Nigi Hayaki, who also claimed that he was a divine being. However, upon meeting Jimmu, he submitted. The submission of Nigi Hayami marks the moment in history when Jimmu ascended to the throne. Today, it is known as National Foundation Day, which is celebrated on February 11th and is an important holiday in the nation of Japan. Many years later, Jimmu was observing his now controlled territory of the Seto Sea atop Narrow Mountain and remarked on how it looked like a dragonfly. A mosquito attempted to extract some of Jimmu's holy and divine blood. Yet, a dragonfly came down and swiftly ate the mosquito. It's believed that this story is how Japan gained its ancient nickname of the Dragonfly Islands, or Akitsushima in Japanese. After achieving his goal as a recognised ruler of Japan, it appears that Jimmu lived a relatively calm life until his death on the 9th of April, 586 BC, at the ripe old age of 126. He left behind him a legacy of 6 children and was given the posthumous name of Emperor Jimmu, translating to Divine Might or Great Warrior. However, believe it or not, there is no compelling evidence of Jimmu's existence beside his mentions in the Nihon Shoki and the Kojiki. Many scholars believe that Emperor Jimmu and the first 9 emperors of Japan are purely fictional, and their stories were based on real events, but were exaggerated in order to increase the prestige of the imperial cult following the Meiji era. The emphasis of the royal family as being descendants of divine beings can be seen during World War II, when the roles of Jimmu were used to justify imperialism across the Asian and Oceanic continents. Regardless of whether he is true or purely a work of fiction, it is evident that Jimmu was and still is a vital figure for the culture of the Japanese people. And the truth remains that Jimmu created a dynasty that has and will live for many, many centuries.